There's really no easy way to tell you this, but Zoro is gone.
It happened so suddenly. One day he was here and the next he wasn't. You probably have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try and answer them. This is Zoro's story.
I can't quite believe I'm saying this so soon after losing Luffy, but I'm worried about Zoro.
If you've ever had a pet get sick, you'll know that feeling of simmering dread. What does this mean? Is it serious? Am I overreacting? With the memory of losing Luffy to lymphoma last year still fresh and raw, I wasted no time getting Zoro to the vet for a checkup. She gave him a full examination and couldn't find any obvious signs that something serious was wrong. I'd already started feeding a high-calorie supplement called Emerade to help with his weight loss. Because Zoro was still active, bright and behaving just like himself, she advised continuing with that and monitoring his weight. If things didn't improve or the diarrhea got worse, we were to move to phase 2, collecting poop samples for testing. One of the hardest parts of caring for ferrets is how difficult they are to diagnose when they get sick. So many serious conditions share the same symptoms, and the only way to get a blood sample is under heavy sedation, something you really don't want to put them through unless you absolutely have to. So, somewhat reassured, I brought Zoro home, and over the next few weeks, things did improve. He still had the occasional dodgy poop, but he gained weight, perked up, and was every bit his goofy, chaotic self. It was heartwarming to see him properly bonding with my sweet girls. Watching them play together was crazy and magical. And when the girls got tired, they'd flatten themselves across him like he was a sun lounger. It was just too cute for words. We had a wonderful summer. I ferret-proofed the patio, and he spent hours exploring every crack, crevice and mystery scent the garden had to offer. And then came the ultimate ferret upgrade, the giant digging sand pit. Life was good. But as the seasons shifted, so did something inside Zoro. Looking back, he was probably a little less active than normal, but with the cold weather coming in, that didn't feel unusual. He was still keen for food, cuddles, and a bounce whenever I initiated play. Then one day, I found a poop in the tray that made my stomach drop. There was blood in it. I didn't see who did it, but I was sure it was Zoro's. So I took out the sample pot the vet had given me and started collecting. With ferrets, a proper sample usually means tiny portions taken from every poop across 3 to 5 days to make sure you capture the right one. I phoned the vets and said I'd bring it in when it was complete. They're great vets, but they don't treat that many ferrets, so they said they'd look into the best lab to send it to. 2 days later, they called and said that the lab they'd found didn't want a multi-day sample at all, only one fresh diarrhea poop. So the sample I'd spent days collecting went in the bin, and I waited for the next diarrhea poop to appear. But it never really did, or at least not anywhere I could see it. I'd been having work done in the garden, and all 3 ferrets were up and active, watching the tradespeople and investigating everything. Zoro seemed totally normal, if anything a bit more energetic than usual, moving about, eating eagerly, being his nosy, happy self.
Oh dear.
A week passed. The memory of the bloody poop drifted into the background. Everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. One ordinary evening after food, something changed. He'd been scrabbling at the cage door, excited like always, climbing over the girls to be first at the dinner table. He ate with his usual gusto, wiping his whiskers on my cardigan during our post-dinner cuddle. But instead of then fussing around for his usual chewy meat treat, he took himself off to his favourite snug in the outside run and went to sleep. That wasn't normal for Zoro, who is obsessed with treats. But it had been a busy day with all the garden activity, so I told myself he was probably just tired. I decided to check in on him later. At 9 p.m, he was still curled up in the exact same spot. It was a mild night, so that didn't alarm me. But when I gently lifted him, he was worryingly floppy and low energy. A cold veil of dread settled over me. Lethargy is a very bad sign in ferrets. We cuddled for about 15 minutes there in the garden. Then he took his treat back into his cosy cave and curled up again. I decided I'd check on him early in the morning, and if he was still like that, we'd be at the vet the very moment they opened. At 7 a.m. I went out to check. I could see his little shape curled up in the same place. But when I reached in and lifted him...
Oh no.
He was gone.
Zoro.
But only just. His body was still warm and soft in my hands. I take comfort knowing he passed peacefully in his sleep, in his favourite spot, tucked into the cosy bed he loved so much. He didn't have a long decline, or pain, or fear. He was just his goofy, cuddly self, right up until the last few hours. And although his time with me feels far too short, at 5 years old he lived a fairly normal length of life for a ferret, though of course on the shorter side of normal. Zoro had already survived so much. Abandoned to the wild, attacked by a badger, bullied in an overcrowded rescue centre where he and Luffy clung to each other for safety and comfort. But we saved him from all of that, both of them, and gave them the best life a ferret could ever dream of. Adventures, safety, fun, cuddles, mischief, sunbeams, and family. When it came time to say goodbye, I decided to bury him with Luffy's ashes so the bonded pair could be together again in the new flower bed at the end of my garden. I wrapped him gently in a shroud of his favourite crinkly brown paper, tied up with his favourite chasey wand toy. Then I placed my boys together with a few treats for their journey and said goodbye. Next summer that flower bed will be teeming with life, flowers growing from the place where my boys rest together. Luffy and Zoro, off over the Rainbow Bridge on their next big adventure. Thank you so much for loving Zoro. I know many of you care about him almost as much as I do, and if this has made you sad, I'm right there with you. But we'll get through it together. I hope remembering his joy brings you some comfort the way it does for me. Duke in peace, my little pirate. You'll always be part of the Floof crew.